Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you once again for joining us today. I'm Jim D'Antona, the President and CEO of the San Luis Obispo Chamber of Commerce. We started this weekly free webinar series at the beginning of Shelter in Place to provide our community with the most credible and up-to-date information and resources. If you were with us last week, you got to hear from Tim Dosa and Rachel Korsgaden regarding the forgiveness portions of the PPP loans and how to work through those. We were very appreciative for Glenn Burdett and that team for helping us work through that. If you missed it or any of our webinars, they're all available on our Facebook page or our YouTube page. You can find both under the San Luis Obispo Chamber of Commerce. Additionally, a couple of weeks ago, we had our paid employment law event with Dave Yunke and Kathy Eppright discussing reopening that had some fabulous information for employers. If you missed that fabulous discussion, you can head over to our website and look under the events tab and legislative events to buy that video and get caught up on that information. That will be the case with any of our paid events. They will all be found on our website after the fact for purchase, even Good Morning Slow. So today we have an interesting discussion for you. We are bringing in some local business people to discuss how they are reopening and getting their thoughts on the process. Lori Bjorklund Silva is a fifth generation San Luis Obispo resident and has held the role of members account manager for the SLO Chamber since 2005. Additionally, Lori acts as the SLO Chamber's HR generalist. Her work helps ensure the Chamber is a vibrant organization for both members and staff. Lori is a proud graduate of Leadership SLO Class 20. We asked her to join today because she has led the effort to help us reopen the Chamber offices to our team in a safe way, and thought with so many offices getting ready to reopen, her thoughts might help you. Additionally, with us today is Ryan Heath and Natasha Prabella. They are the owners of Slowco Massage and Wellness Spa in San Luis Obispo. Slowco is the world's first and only certified B Corp day spa. Ryan and Natasha are active volunteers in the community, both serving on numerous councils and committees, including 2 advisory bodies for the SLO Chamber. Their personal services business will be able to reopen tomorrow, and with such a hands-on business, we thought it would be helpful to hear how they plan for that reopening and or when they might actually reopen. Also with us today is Greg Avakian, who took the role of Director of Parks and Recreation for the City of San Luis Obispo in September 2019. Greg has more than 25 years experience in both university and municipal recreation and holds degrees in recreation management, as well as a master's in education with a focus in leadership. He'll be helping us walk through the reopening, what the reopening will look like for daycare, fitness, and gyms, but also how the city is helping out with those sectors. Finally, we're joined by Samantha Welch. She's the operations director of Blue Mango Management Services, the group behind SLO County restaurants Novo, Luna Red, Robbins in Cambria, and Mint and Craft. Welch studied hospitality and tourism management at the University of Massachusetts, Amherst, and additionally pursued Six Sigma Green Belt and Level 2 sommelier certifications. She got us started on self-assessments on our webinars a few weeks ago, and we wanted to have her come back and discuss how that process has gone and any lessons learned. Today, after our presenters speak, we'll also take questions. So down at the bottom there where your question and answer Q&A button is, go ahead and click there and add in any questions you have for our panelists, and we'll try to get those in and get those answered. Try not to use the chat. The chat box is for where we will share links for any of the information we're giving out for you. So before we get to our panelists today, I wanted to bring you back to the county's readyslo.org website. This is their reopening page and hopefully help you find your business and if it's on the list of new businesses opening. As we head over to the reopening page, we can find our way down to the list of next sectors allowed to open. Here we find that on June 19th, the body art, tattoo and body piercing sectors will be allowed to reopen, and you can find through there how their guidance on those pieces. Additionally, personal services, nail salons, massage, cosmetology, All of these services were provided in here, and the certification processes for those. So as you are looking, if you are in these sectors, here's the information that'll be available for you, and getting to that self-certification form, which is so key to reopening. Additionally, eventually you'll be able to find in here the self-certification form that you can just click off and check off. You're doing your self-assessments, which our guests will be talking about today, and making sure that you certify and have that on file for reopening. Additionally, what I'd like to go back to is back one step. If you haven't been able to reopen yet and you're still waiting, you can find in that next level, not allowed to reopen, statewide reopening dates. So as you can see, here's an entire list of all those operations and sectors which haven't been given the green light to go. This is where you're going to want to come back and search through to find out if your group is being added, what is being added, and what are the best practices to get started and available, ready for those reopenings. So I will now turn it back to our panelists here, and we'll get started with my colleague, Lori Silva, who has done an amazing job to bring us up to speed on a safe office opening. Lori, go ahead and take it away.
Thanks, Jim. That was fun on video right off the bat. Sorry about that. So for us, our office has been fully remote up until just this past Monday. And so we're really just in the very beginning phases of moving back into the office, and we are coming back with just half of our staff in the office at this time. The rest of the staff is still remote. Leading up to it, we've had many conversations, about what the transition will look like. And so far, all seems like it's good. We've already had changes, which is, really to be expected. Our office houses our visitor center as well as the administrative offices. So when we started this process, we had to look at this from basically two different lenses, one for the retail side and then for the office side as well. So our visitor center manager, Dusty Collierworth, and I worked really close together to get the process started on reopening. So, where do you even start? For us, early on, the start guide was a great resource to help just get us thinking in general about what steps we would need to take. And from there, we moved over to Ready Slow once that was launched. And that's been a great site. And I still refer back to it after we've been back into the office. So I was hung up in the very beginning on how do you even start the worksite specific plan, which you'll see when you go through readyslow.org. So I was incredibly thankful when Samantha Welch came from Blue Mango Management to one of our webinars that we had early on, and she had this great risk assessment plan that they created for all of their properties. And that was huge at getting us kick-started within the office. A great process. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here so you are able to see for us what it looked like. So this is the assessment sheet that was created by Blue Mango, and we start from the very beginning. She created great steps, step by step, what you need to do going through here. So, in our visitor center, we knew that we had a higher risk because we'd have people coming and going from the site on a regular basis. And so we knew it probably would be a little higher on the risk factor. So, we started from the very beginning, just knowing that we should probably require no outside and food and drinks, and people would be in the space probably for at least 15 minutes. The counter space is small, but it's, a larger space in general. So that meant that it was a medium contamination area because of the amount of flat surface that's in there. So we decided that there would be no sampling of any type of merchandise. The ventilation, which is another thing that you might not necessarily think about when you're planning your going back into the office, but that's key. So for the visitor center, we've made it a point to keep at least one of the visitor center doors open to get the fresh air in and out, as well as creating less of a contact for people when they're coming in and out. They don't need to touch the door handle. We've asked that everybody that enters our staff or enters our office is wearing a mask at all times. So if you do come into the visitor center, we would ask that you have your mask handy. And we've got hand sanitizer available in multiple places within the visitor center. And in the visitor center, there's not a whole lot of space to have the 6 feet of distancing. So we've pretty much, for the most part, said that it would need to be, 1 or 2 people in there at a time. And Dusty and his staff have been great since we've been back at even just talking to people through the little gate that's out front there to see if there's something that they can do that would minimize them coming into the space, but just easily get them what they're needing. So again, this is all we're just going through the motions and still trying to figure things out. So as far as crowd control, with 1 staff member in there, we just felt that 2 customers at once would be probably the most. So you'll see here that for this sheet, I should have started back there, it's broke down by sections within our office. So we've got the visitor center, the cubbies, which we have a pretty open air office space. So we have 2 separate cubby areas that have 4 staff members working in that each. And then we have our membership office, which has 2 people in there, and our boardroom, which can hold, I want to say, up to 28, or probably more like 30, actually 32. And then we have a little small room, which is where I'm at right now, a break room, and then our CEO's office. So each space has different flags. So, in our cubbies, like I said, it's open, but to have multiple people in that space at the same time, if all 4 of us were in there, we wouldn't be able to maintain our 6 feet of distance. So we've made the decision when we were coming back into the office to just have 1 person per cubby / office. So in the membership office, there is just, 1 person, and that one again is one that has a door. So we've asked that that door stay open with the exception of, if you're on an important call that you couldn't be discussing with the door open. The boardroom, we know, isn't something that will be utilized right now for its full potential. So obviously it would run a higher risk, but for now it is for the most part just utilized by at maximum 4 to 5 people in that space. We did make the decision to close off our break room. So the break room is just open for putting, basically you just put your stuff in the refrigerator or you heat your lunch up, whatever you need to do, and you're cleaning down the space when you come in, and you're cleaning down the space when you leave as well, because it is a smaller space and more room for contamination and that type of thing, more risk in there. So if you haven't seen this, I know Samantha did share it with all the attendees at the webinar that she was on. I would suggest going back to that webinar and pulling this up if you haven't yet opened, because it was a huge help for us. And it really was key to defining our trouble areas in our office. So we started with, the basic cleaning information that we pulled from the CDC's website, and then the start guide. And then from there, we incorporated in the information that Ready Slow provided as well. Of course, we talked with the staff. This has been something that literally the day that we left the office, we were all saying, when do we get to come back, and what is that even going to look like? So it's important to have all your staff included as much as you can and get input where you can, because not only does it help you, but it helps them feel comfortable coming back. So from there, Dusty and I, we purchased all the supplies that we needed. We got gloves and sanitizing and disinfecting sprays. And with that, the intention was that we would be cleaning thoroughly in the morning and again at the end of the day. And then each of us is responsible for our own areas throughout the day. So part of the checkoff list is, going over what cleaning looks like. So we, obviously we weren't all together. So we had our Zoom staff meeting, and in there we went over, how to clean and just the basics. one thing that we did was we created a one-way street in our office. So for those of you that haven't been in the administrative offices, it's a big circle. So we decided that would be a one-way street for us. And after being in this space, we realized, okay, well, maybe we can't always do the one-way street. There's going to be times when, you know, one person's just going from one office to the back, and they would run the risk of infecting more people if they stuck to the one-way street. So sometimes we go backwards on that one-way street. We removed chairs in spaces to make sure that in an area that should only have 2 people based upon its size, there's only 2 chairs in that room. As well as, most importantly from the checkoff sheet, was creating a daily health check for each employee. So if you were with us at our last legislative update, Dave Youngke and Kathy Upright reminded us that those types of forms need to be kept in the medical folder, not in their personnel manual. So just a little reminder on that. So like I said, now we are back in the office, and you know, what does that look like? So for us, we are entering the office masked up, and from what I hear, the governor made the announcement today that California will all be wearing masks, but we're walking down the street with our mask on, ready to go into the office. And when we get in the office, we, for the most part, will just, you know, go to our own desks and sit down. And at that point, it's okay to take off our masks because, like I said in the beginning, we are pretty much in our own space. But when we get up and leave our desk area, we do put the mask back on. So as we're moving about, we're masked up. We do a daily health check. And so for that, you're doing it at home. You're taking your temperature and making sure that it's less than 100.4, and also making note that you do not have any of the COVID symptoms. And that's on an Excel spreadsheet that they keep at home on their own. And then again, when you get into the office, I'm going to ask you, did you have a fever less than 100.4? And do you have any symptoms? And when you say, yes, I'm less than 100.4, no, I have no symptoms, you'll sign off a little check sheet that then we keep that, like I said, will go into the medical folder. Like I said, we're sanitizing our own spaces throughout the day, but making sure that we're staying on that because as you move about, you don't realize how many germs are out there. For common areas, we're cleaning before, like I said, in the break room, we'll clean the microwave before we use it, finish it, you're gonna clean it again. Light switches, the bathrooms and the sinks, they're all disinfected at the beginning of the day and again at the end. Nobody shares pens in here, so when you're signing your checkoff sheet, I'm handing it to you. You're taking it back to your desk, signing it, and bringing it back. We also have signs around the office, you know, reminding you to wear your mask. Believe it or not, there is a proper way to handle your mask, to take it on or to put it on and take it off. There's a way to do it. As well as proper hand washing. So, you know, just that reminder that keep washing your hands. So for us now, things are pretty well in place, but we do know that things can and will change at any moment. Like I said, we're here now with just half of our staff. So at some point in time, the rest of the staff will be incorporated back in. So we know that there's going to be changes there again. So we know it's not a perfect plan, and you know, just a reminder to yourself as you're going back, just give yourself grace and give your staff grace. This is, it's nothing new because we're all in the same place, but it really is all new. So just have grace and good luck. I'm happy to be a resource to anybody if needed.
Sorry, mute issue there, mute button issue. But I want to say Lori has done an amazing job. And real quick, since we are dealing with all these different sectors, I did want to jump on a quick question that Mary Burden sent in to us, that what are we seeing amongst the professional offices? And what I would say is not many professional offices have opened up if they can do most of their work remotely. As you heard, Lori, there is a lot, as Lori was talking about, a lot of these issues that you have to do while you have people in the office just aren't really worth it if you can do that same work from home, right? In terms of figuring out where your what you're sanitizing, how you're doing it. Obviously, we are providing service, and so for us, it was important that we be there, but we even did that in a half step to figure out how this goes, because obviously a lot of people in the office would make it more complicated. So I'm seeing mostly on the professional side, definitely not necessarily reopening, even though they can. Which brings us to our next guests, Ryan and Natasha, who are the owners of Slow Co Massage and Wellness Spa, and obviously have the opportunity for the first time to potentially open on Friday. And here's obviously a lot of context, so brought them in to hear how are they looking at this reopening and what are the key points. So Ryan, Natasha?
Awesome. Thank you, Jim. And thank you to the whole chamber for having us. We hope we can be helpful and enlightening. A lot of this goes back to our inception, which was with the goal of creating a safe, healthy space for the community to boost their immune systems. And so really it's been about our hospital grade HVAC system, our sanitation processes based on board requirements, as well as our own feelings of trying to make it so people could have a healthy space to be in, as well as a safe place for all the employees and ourselves. So from there, when we started reading about the pandemic, we didn't necessarily change much about what we were doing. We just tried to do what we were already doing better and just continue with that focus of strengthening immune systems in the community, as well as making people feel safe and heard and welcomed. So with that in mind, once we got the shelter in place order, unfortunately, we had to lay off all of our employees because we saw this as, we're in a close contact business. We don't want to rush back. We don't want them to have to wait on us. We're fortunate enough, and we had the foresight to only use employees rather than independent contractors to make sure that they could get unemployment right away. Granted, luckily they expanded it to independent contractors as well, so that we could keep people safe throughout this as much as possible. But we were grateful that our employees were going to be well off right off the bat, and we're able to have a little bit of peace of mind going into this. From there, it's been what a lot of other people have been doing, learning more on the webinars and trying to listen, educate, lead with love, hear what our, we're past employees, but our future employees are going to need to feel very good about coming back. And we're looking forward to that. After Dr. Penny's press conference yesterday, her words, she very much discourages massage. So with that in mind, we are holding back. We're gonna, at some point soon, we will have our no-touch services back, which are the cryotherapy, infrared sauna, the Somodome meditation pod, and the salt therapy. But we wanted to hold off a little bit just to make sure that we've got the self-certification down pat. And I'm gonna share our screen now with our COVID-19 plan thus far for you to get an idea.
Yeah, and it's, we're lucky, and I'm sure a lot of people found that different industry associations that were putting out guidelines of what they were expecting, since other parts of the country opened sooner. And so we were, just glued to several different industries, industry associations, trying to learn what they were recommending. And so we were kind of trying to order things ahead of time. I'm sure a lot of business owners have found that things are back ordered. There's still things like HEPA filters and our automated hand sanitizer dispensers that we ordered over a month ago that still haven't arrived just yet, which were a small part of our decision of holding off. But we just wanted to make sure that we were keeping people safe when they came to visit us. So this is part of the COVID-19 prevention plan, the site-specific plan for our business. So it just has, the required information about just understanding how our leadership is going to handle it, what employees are responsible for, and as well as like how to handle situations when they do come up. If someone does show up with symptoms, what we should be doing in response to that, as well as different exposure situations, of course, calling SLO County Public Health Department, so that way contact tracing can occur to prevent further spread. And then we went through the building and just took a really close look at every little detail, trying to figure out, what people are touching, possible ways of transmission, how we can really change things. But we really wanted to focus on sustainability. Like, we really pride ourselves on, having sustainable practices as a spa. And honestly, it pains me thinking about the amount of Lysol wipes and bleach that's being used right now. I had learned that like the calls to poison control have more than doubled since all of this started, just because people are mixing chemicals that they shouldn't be mixing and kind of overdoing it with disinfectants. So we really want to make a point of educating our guests as well, how they can sustainably protect themselves by using products that are not toxic. Another thing that was really surprising is 189 million disposable masks are probably just going to be used by the spa industry alone in 1 year. And so those are all going to end up in landfills. And we really wanted to make sure that we were doing our part of, like I said, having a better, impact on the environment, or less detrimental impact on the environment. So we're going to be using fabric face coverings. Our laundry system uses ozone to disinfect, and also high heat temperatures as well to help make sure that everything is clean. And then once those masks have gone through their lifespan, then we're going to make a point of recycling those. And then in our building, we also have, like Ryan was saying, an air purification system that actually treats all of the air in the building in a way that's not harmful to your lungs and breathing. So this actually will kill anything in the air, any like viruses, bacteria, even mold. 99% of that is killed on surfaces in the air, and even if someone were to sneeze, 99% of those germs, if they're not wearing a mask, or even if they are wearing a mask, 99% of that will be killed within 3 feet. So just looking at different ways, not only just HEPA filters, which I know is really commonly recommended, but that means the air actually has to pass through that in order for the viruses to be pulled out of the air. So it's just a really good way to make sure that the entire office or building is being treated. And then another thing that we have to look at as far as physical distancing, most people in offices, you can just move the desks further apart, but when you're talking about guests coming in, we had to change our entire way of scheduling. So normally we would schedule things in 15-minute intervals, which would allow 4 opportunities for guests to come in throughout an hour. And so now we're changing our time standards so that way we have certain services that will be booked on the 10s every hour. So that way there's only going to be 1 guest coming in at a time and staggering the start time of our employees. And then other services will be booked 15-minute intervals. There will be 2 times throughout an hour that there might be some overlap. And then the rest of the services will be booked on the 5s. So we're trying it out. We did it all out on paper, and it looks like there shouldn't be more than 2 people up front at a time. And so that will help make sure that people don't feel really overwhelmed in the space. And so in reception, we looked, and, you know, just like Lori was saying, we removed all the testers from the shelves. We reduced the amount of product that was out because in the industry guidelines, it says that every product should be disinfected every day. And so what we're gonna do is we're only putting 1 or 2 of each product out on the shelf, and then we're gonna put a bin out with a sign and educate our guests when they come in and they're browsing. We don't want people to feel like they have to purchase something if they pick it up. I don't know if anyone else is experiencing that. I'll go to the grocery store and I'll reach for something to take a closer look at it. I'm like, oh, I guess I'm buying this now. So we're gonna create a bin so that way they can put a product in that they've handled, and then we can disinfect it before it goes back on the shelf. We've removed all chairs. We're gonna create pathways so that way people feel very, so that physical distancing is very easy and they know where to stand and where to go. We're incorporating contactless payment methods so that way they can actually pay entirely from their phone if they want, or if they have a credit card that, you know, you can just tap on the credit card processing unit that you can pay that way. All of our receipts have been digital, so we'll continue with that. And we even digitized our intake forms. So that way the pre-screening process that's recommended in the industry guidelines, they can fill out their intake form 24 hours ahead of time, confirming that they or anyone in their household are not experiencing any symptoms and can come in for their appointment. In the treatment rooms, we're going to be adding HEPA 13 filters to capture any particles and just help with ventilation a little bit more, just to help people feel more secure. And then just increasing the frequency of how often we're disinfecting things. Before, we would disinfect door handles every day. Now we're going to be disinfecting door handles, any surfaces that can be touched in the treatment rooms after every guest. And then our employee training, when we bring everyone back, we're actually going to be making sure that everyone's getting the same information and it's really consistent and it's something that they can go back to. It's really overwhelming looking at all this information and making sure that you're doing everything right all the time, especially when information is changing so quickly about the proper way to handle things. And so we're actually working on a digital training course for our employees to take before returning to work. And Think HR, which is through Morrison Garritano, is also, we get our insurance through Morrison Garritano, and they actually have some really great resources for employers to use to help make sure that they're meeting all of the requirements. And then as far as screening employees, we're gonna be having our employees self-screen before coming into work. We're adding signage at the back door as a reminder that they should not be coming into work unless, you know, they're healthy, which is something that we always encouraged before. But one of the things, you know, as much as, of course, we didn't want to lay anyone off, we have this opportunity to really reinvent our employee experience as well. We really want them to feel safe and healthy at work. So we're changing our policy, our compensation packages, so that way they're actually accruing more paid time off. So finances aren't a heavily weighted factor in determining whether or not it's safe to come to work. And then we're also going to encourage our employees to do complimentary salt therapy sessions, which is really good for respiratory health and boosting the immune system at the end of every shift. And then guest guidelines are also going to be placed at the door, so that way there's clear expectations about our new policies, and we'll be sending that information out online. And then this document is actually going to be readily available. We're going to create a sign that says open and safe, just like the city recommended, and create a little QR code. So that way they can take a picture on their phone and it will take them to the website so they can see everything that we're doing to help ensure that, you know, they're safe. So, and then the last thing that we're doing is we're really reevaluating our services. So, especially after hearing what Dr. Penny said about close contact services not being recommended at this time, our numbers are, you know, continuing to go up in the county. And so we have a lot of people that come in for massage for pain relief and of course stress reduction, but we want to figure out if there's other things that we can offer that help address those concerns so that don't require close contact. That way we're continuing to keep our employees safe while still creating jobs and also being able to serve our guests. That's kind of an overview of everything that we're doing, and I know that things are going to change a lot once we start to open, because we'll probably find out what's working, what's not, and just adjusting as we go.
That's so great, and really appreciate you both, Ryan and Tasha, talking about that, and so amazing to listen to you talk about your business and how you see it and how it's going to evolve. There were a couple questions. The name of the botanical disinfectant you're using, and if you don't mind, where you got it?
Yeah, Benefect is actually a family-owned company. They have websites that you can order from if you just go to their website. I'll go ahead and post that link as well. We also found something called Pure Hard Surface, which uses silver ions and just citric acid. And it has a special way of bonding to a surface, so it protects it from at least bacteria growth for 24 hours. I'm still trying to dig and find out if it's actually protective against viruses as well before we plan on using that. There's also one called Force of Nature that is really cool, actually. You make the disinfectant yourself. So there's these little plastic recyclable vials that you can purchase that are basically just vinegar and salt, and you pour it into water and you just attach it onto this little device, and it basically creates hypochlorous acid, which is just as effective as bleach as when it comes to killing viruses and bacteria. So you never have to fear about running out.
That's awesome. You were talking about, I think, a filtration system. Is there a name for that?
Yeah, there's several different ones. The one that we have, I don't know how to pronounce it, a Reme Halo. It's R-E-M-E, Halo. And we had a local HVAC company install that for us.
Excellent. That's very helpful. And yeah, those are folks, and I also heard you talking about ozone, which is, I know, really interesting if folks haven't checked out what that means and how the cleaning goes with that, a very effective way of dealing with viruses, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, pretty interesting stuff. Fabulous. Well, and there's so many more questions, but we'll get to our next ones. If we have a little extra time, maybe we'll pop back for some more. I'd like to bring up our next guest, Greg Avakian, who took the role Director of the Parks and Recreation Department for the City of San Luis Obispo, and talk a little bit about how they're working through these current times, and
yeah.
how you're taking care of kids and all of the people who have to use the facilities.
Thank you, Jim, and the opportunity to be with everybody today. It's really nice to hear from Lori and the office structure that you guys have put into place. Extremely similar to what we're doing at all the city facilities, from City Hall to our planning department, as well as Parks and Rec. And then for Ryan and Natasha, such a challenging business model to have to overcome. And I think they're on a good track, and I appreciated all their insight. And it's a lot of crossover as we kind of blend in Parks and Recreation. We have so many different facets of programming and facilities. So we have a very similar form as Lori showed for how we kind of gauged our our needs for the office layouts in our buildings, but I thought I'd take a little different spin, and I'll share my screen with just a little PowerPoint to kind of prompt us along here. Let's see if I get that right. Sorry, people. Are we in motion here? Are you guys able to see the screen at this point?
Yes.
Great, thank you very much. Just contact information. Again, I'm a little formal. I apologize for that. So I think the big part for us in the city, as well as Parks and Rec, we are so multifaceted. We had multiple facilities, multiple programs, multiple business models of activities that occurred right when the COVID emergency and pandemic kicked in. So within our first 12 to 24 hours of the shelter in home, we had to close up 5 different school sites for childcare and day camps, to the swim center and golf course facilities, and multiple programs and facilities, like I stated. So that was pretty consuming, and everybody didn't know. It was like, if you guys remember back March 16th, March 19th, and that kind of window of time, how quickly information was coming, and how challenging it was to kind of stay a step ahead. And you want to be proactive, but we were very much reactive in those first few days with that. So that was a super huge challenge, I think, for citywide. That included our water treatment plants, to how do you manage the finance department and planning and billing and project development. So pretty comprehensive challenges for the city, the county, and our state. Once we kind of had a chance to come up for air, it was, what's going on? We needed to put in our remote work plans, like many of you have done, work from home, and the infrastructure for your IT and web services to be able to do Zoom and Skype meetings, and kind of the new norm that we're in right now. The other impact was most of our management and city leadership were assigned to our emergency operations centers. So we were spending anywhere from 20 to 25 hours a week just dealing with the emergency operations center, not even being able to handle the staff and the daily activities that we typically are doing. So we relied a lot on our managers and our support staff, who did an amazing job to keep things going. So it was pretty intense time. And then, like everybody else, it was, what the heck do we do? Research, research, and research. We're benefited by, and much like many others, have like national and international boards that kind of provide guidance and policy. So a couple for the recreation world was the National Recreation and Park Association, also known as NRPA. The California version of that, which we're all members with, and a lot of our staff have been board members as well. The local colleagues, what's City of Paso doing? What is AG doing? What was Morro Bay doing? How are we working together to kind of figure out the best and safe practices? The county obviously was a huge help for everything. And then CDC was the first out of the gate to really provide us the right guidelines for parks, playgrounds, facilities, and programming. So those are just the back end resources that we were able to provide us the right guidance to move forward very quickly. Again, within that first 2 weeks, we had to kind of pivot the business plan, where a lot of our local businesses, as far as restaurants, had to do the same. Right? They had to figure out how to stand up a delivery or a order in and pickup kind of service, right? So we had to assess what was safe, and unfortunately, the only thing that we could really keep open was our open space and trail system. And I give a lot of thanks and high fives to Dr. Bornstein for being an advocate for being outside and keeping your mental and physical wellness. She never said that shelter at home was stay in your house 24/7. It was stay in, keep your bubble small, go out for a walk, but be safe, right? So we were very excited that we could maintain those almost 4,500 acres of trail systems in our city boundaries. And we were able to reassign a lot of the staff that worked at the pool, the golf course, to help out with that, to support, as we were seeing 30 to 40% increases in our trail system. because everybody was home, right? And they're not working or just trying to feel a sense of let's get outside and refresh ourselves. We also pivoted and developed a park ambassador program to really be educators, not enforcers, but educators. And again, reassigned a lot of our staff to those areas to, as we close down certain, if it's a basketball court or a tennis facility or a playground, to make sure that the community knew why and then what was a safe activity to do in the parks. Because we wanted people to still be outside and be in their household structures and really still get that mental and physical wellness. So that was, again, an initial impact. As time went on, we switched practices, and like many online programming or business practices, it was all remote. So we were able to develop programs such as children's activities, sport activities that you could go right to our website. We called it a virtual recreation page. And I think at one point we had over 100 different activities that we listed on our webpage for families and children to stay active, entertain themselves at home. A lot of the families weren't used to having that 24/7, you know, for multiple weeks of working from home and balancing a family and kids. So we kept that kind of mentality of we're here to help support our community in that sense by advertising and promoting our virtual recreation. The unfortunate part, and similar to Natasha and Ryan were saying, is we had to furlough and lay off a lot of our staff. And once we got to the financial impacts and also priorities of what we can remain open, we had about 80 plus supplemental or part-time staff, such as lifeguards, referees for sports, our childcare teacher aides that we had to lay off and furlough, as well as 9 assistant managers, which are limited benefited positions. They work about 30 to 35 hours a week. And that's about half of our staff. So we have a very thin staff already in the Parks and Rec world. So that was the emotional challenge, I think, to add on to the COVID issues. But the good news is we're bringing them back as we're reopening. So I'll come back to that. But those were challenging times in April. We were able to keep a lot of the full-time staff and just got reassigned to support other city infrastructure to maintain the community and safety aspect of COVID. We kept the Park Ambassador program and our trailheads open, but we did have to kind of reduce the presence out there. And then obviously budget adjustments, like everybody else in the business world, we are still a business. And we had to reassess as we were heading into the June and July mode of budget cuts and reorganization of priorities for budget. As everybody else, we really utilize the county and state guidelines. Even though we're also a government agency, that's the backbone, right? So readyslow.org was essential for us. Again, it would change every day or two, and much like everybody else, we kept monitoring the phases and stages of reopening so we could try to be proactive and get ahead of everything. Excuse me, CDC, Department of Education, national organizations all helped us as we really focused on the childcare. It was essential that all of our internal priorities and our internal staff at the Parks and Rec Department, and with great, I guess, encouragement and stuff from our city leadership and our city council to get behind that was a primary objective to help economic recovery. We needed businesses, when they get a chance to reopen, have a place for their families and children to go to while they went back to work. So working with the school district, a great partnership we've had for years. We were able to get our classrooms at 3 different locations, and we just started that on Monday. So we're only 3.5 days in. For those on the call or on the line here, we did sell out in 35 minutes, all 7 sessions. That's but the challenge was we had to go to these different protocols of only 10 children in a room versus say 25 or 30. We had to minimize for social distancing, a lot of safety, sanitization protocols, just like every other business that have spoken already. So it really impacted the way we could provide a service to really meet the needs. So the nice thing is we opened this week, we had 60 kids. We're able to expand that to about 80 to 84 next session, which starts next week. And that's going to be our model, hopefully, as we move forward and as restrictions potentially could expand or relax. we might be able to add some more children to the ratios for that. Yeah, the rest, again, we're just looking, what did we need to do to open safely and have all these different considerations. Much like all the other businesses, our staff were nervous to come back, right? We have a community that's anxious to come back. And we have a community that's also very cautious. Our staff fell in that same category. So we really went into the standardization of procedures and protocols for each facility, much like Lori outlined, for cleaning of handles, bathroom sinks to your desk area and common areas, and having the one-way routing and one-directional hallways. And then we're also staggering our shifts. So people might work half day at home remotely and another half day in the office, or bounce back and forth if they have a cubicle style shared workspace, not in their own personal office, to again minimize the contacts yet still be successful. That's one benefit we've definitely found, that we can work remotely and still be very productive and successful. For training, so this is kind of an interesting and concept of when you try to do a childcare day camp training, it's very traditionally hands-on, large groups. You got team bonding and teamwork exercises. You have facility site inspections and overviews. A lot of that had to be done by Skype and Zoom to start. And then we were able to do small group social distancing in-person trainings at each school site. So to maintain 6 feet of distance in a classroom that might only be a 20 by 20 or a 30 by 30 size room. Again, you can only do small group training. So a lot of repetitive training and multiple day training that took a little bit longer than we were hoping to do, but the staff were amazing about dedication and getting them in, and we're doing shadow training as well. So to get that program going, it takes a couple weeks. And one thing that I would like to say out loud and caution anybody who's going to get prepared, and I think Natasha and Ryan stated it as well, is if the county says it's cleared to open on Friday, the 19th, it doesn't mean you're ready. It doesn't mean that you're having your supplies and your proper disinfecting, as well as just the routine of changing your business model in a lot of different ways. So I think managing the expectations of our community and managing the expectations of our clientele has been one of the bigger challenges. But again, everybody's really focused on safety. And once you kind of have a chance to explain it to them, we're here to provide the services and get our economy and our business and our community back in action. So one thing that was mentioned was the health screening. About a month or so ago, when we were doing health screening in our office areas, we started using a QR code to do touchless, no paper forms. And that's been a fantastic thing. And we incorporated that now for every parent who comes and drops off their child. They also do the QR code to fill out the questionnaire of have they been exposed? Are they having a temperature? Are they been sick in the last 24 hours? We also do a temperature check and record that for our records. So those are really just nice, again, touchless ways to still provide a safe service yet safely. And then our own kind of version of this Ready Slow is the city has our own reopening step-by-step program for all of our different facilities and programs. And this is on our website and our SharePoint for internal, but it models a lot of what the county is doing, and it's very similar to what Lori was describing as how to properly review, assess your workspace and open properly. And then we have this and other kind of our guidelines as well. And there's building captains. We have each facility has someone who's in charge of the safety, the disinfection, the protocols for mask wearing, and kind of reminding our staff about the 6 foot distancing. As you come back into the office, it's natural for all of us to sort of gravitate and get a little closer. 6 feet becomes 4 feet, becomes 2 feet. And there's that reminder of, oh yeah, step back over here. Let's sit at the opposite end of a conference table, even though it used to sit 12, now it only sits 4 or 3 people and those kind of things. So we've designated building captains for that. And we do the same thing at our child care sites as well. And this form here, there's different ones for each division. This is our shop setting and field settings one, but we also are using the county one that we'll be posting in our offices to kind of show that we've done our checkpoints, that we're being consistent with the county standards, and want to promote a safe atmosphere with the queuing of lines and the 6-foot distancing and the kind of plexiglass shields that we have for our cameras. And a little fun one, this is sort of what school and day camp kind of looks like nowadays. We have a safety shield for any transaction for in-person interactions. We have our QR code. We have our check-in station that's no longer at the classroom. Parents walk up, we have a staff person there called a safety monitor. They do a temperature check. They review the questions from the QR code with the parent. We then escort the child from there to the classroom that you can see behind there. And the parents don't really go any farther than that pop-up tent and desk area. Our goal is to keep the bubble very tight. So we have, our 10 to 20 children and our, 4 to 5 staff that work at each site every day. It's the same bubble group. And that's really important as they're there for anywhere from 6 to 8 hours. And we're maintaining that 5 days a week. We're going to do 7 sessions is to reduce the potential for infection or transferring of any illnesses, is to keep the bubble tight and small, as we say. So each school site has that same setup. And you can see the classroom there where rows and rows of desks are now spaced out, and each child can sit there, and then they do interact on the field area or some games, but we wash their hands. They have a protocol for hourly disinfecting, and it's really important for us to kind of try to do the social distancing, but kids are kids, and it's really a challenge for that. But the main thing, it's the same bubble of children each time, each day. So that really, really helps in that. And we also paired up family and siblings together, so it keeps that a little extra tight as well. For the Parks and Rec specifically, our next phasing in of programs is reactivating the Laguna Lake Golf Course. Many golf courses in the county stayed open. This is the only municipal golf course in the county as a city run, and we used every resource and staff that we had to really take care of the COVID-19 pandemic in our community. So we're just now able to start to get in that process, and we'll be able to announce shortly. Unfortunately, I can't do it today, sorry everybody, of a confirmed opening date, but in the next day or so, we'll be able to confirm that. It won't take long to restart the golf course. The swim center, very much more involved in safety training and that. And unfortunately, we did have 3 months of non-operation. So we've got to get our lifeguards back through the HR process, as well as lots of modified training for that. So, but we're also excited to at least get that going. And that's, again, just a couple weeks away from opening. So we'll make an announcement hopefully soon. And I wish I was ready today. We're trying really hard to get that done. It would have been nice to be able to do this, but and then the next phase is most likely in July and August. Will be once the county gives us clearance, the adult sports and youth activities will kind of go out there. I did have one other portion to share, and we'll see if I can do that quickly. It's just a page from our staff manual, and it's our normal staff manual for day camp is about 12 pages. Now it's 21 because of safety. There's a lot more procedures. You can see we usually have a camp counselor, maybe a special needs support for any child that needs extra care. But we've added a safety monitor, a camp floater, and then our camp administrators used to do rounds to the locations, but now we have one at each site. So it's definitely a financial impact, but it's also a safety, and our number one goal is we want to keep these children healthy, the families healthy, and keep our community engaged and get our economic vitality kind of back in action. So this is all CDC, Department of Education standards, and it's been great to be able to have those guidelines to really help us. We've been very fortunate in our world to have fantastic national and local organizations to do that. And at that point, I will see if there's any questions, and I can talk about some other city programs as well if you'd like. But I know we're doing the Open Slow starting Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at the Mission Plaza and on Monterey Street, and we're closing down that to, again, provide more opportunities to get out and about and hopefully restart some businesses that might not have been able to if because of the restrictions or current status of our phases for the county.
Right. Yeah.
So
It's,
thank you.
Obviously, a lot of overlapping pieces, but we're finally
Yes.
back to it. And for everyone out there, I know we're running a tad long.
No,
but I
sorry.
No problem at all. Thank you for that. It's fabulous information. Don't have any questions here, and so want to get a chance to have Samantha Welch, from the operations director of Blue Mango. We're going to run over a little, but we really want to hear from Samantha here on kind of some of the takeaways as someone who kind of got us all started, I think, and where have you found and what are some of the lessons you've learned?
Yeah, we've been open for about 3.5 weeks. It's probably been about 4 weeks since I've been on, and it has been a whirlwind of a couple of weeks. Hindsight always being 2020. I feel a lot of the positions that you're in right now as far as getting organized and putting all of your plans in place. And we spent a very long time doing that as well. And I think probably looking back, it's always good to remain agile. We planned and planned and planned and planned, and we opened up our doors, and a lot of the plans that we put in place were exactly what we needed. But it's really okay to be okay with releasing a certain percentage of your plans, because on paper it sounds great, but in practice it doesn't work. So I think any advice I would have for anyone that is ready to open their business is keep the creativity going, all that creativity that you're pouring into building your business back up, but keep it going as you reopen. Where we started is still very similar to where we are, but we've made so many micro changes and some larger changes to our plan in order to remain true to our community about what we're doing to follow protocols, but also remain true to our staff. The restaurant business, really any customer service business, the hardest part about it has always been people, managing people. It's been serving people. And a lot of the protocols in place with COVID-19 have been politicized. And so that first weekend really of being open, we got beat up a lot, whether it was our protocols were not strict enough or our protocols were too strict. So I think I would prepare yourself for criticism, because it will come. I think as a business person, all we can do is plan for everything that we possibly can, stay true to it, and communicate. We have learned that we need to over communicate what we're doing, using your website, using social media channels. Don't forget to change your hours of operation or any services that you have on every single location you're available, or that information is available on the internet. It will reduce a lot of your phone calls. Put as much information as you can in your introductory phone call welcome message, and it will save you a lot of question phone calls. And then I would caution all against complacency. I was actually reading an NPR article about this probably about 2 weeks ago, in the complacency phenomenon, that you spend all of this time, whether you're doing your sanitation checklist every single day, and then the next day, or you're doing it every hour, and then the next day it becomes every hour and a half, and the next day it becomes every 2 hours. It's very easy to kind of follow this downhill slip. So I think it's great that the city is appointing someone to be that person that's holding everybody accountable to it, and kind of keeping us all on top of our game with these sanitation protocols. We certainly have felt it. We're fortunate to have some members of our team that are incredibly passionate about the health and safety protocols. So they've been doing a lot of the heavy lifting on our end, as far as making sure that our sanitation checklists are checked off every hour, and that we're doing everything that we say. So it's great to have people on our team that are speaking up if a checklist was missed, because it's keeping us all on our game, which we really need. We get busy with everything else. So it's nice to have that kind of check and balance. I think, that would be the best advice I have for anybody, is definitely stay agile, expect criticism, but if you're doing what you are supposed to be doing by the protocols that our county and our state experts have put along forth for each of our business sectors. And I think that's the best that you can do. And as Lori mentioned, like, forgive yourself. We're going to make mistakes and we're going to stumble through this, but it's okay. And it's okay to pick yourself back up and do it better the next day. And I think that's mostly what we've learned. We're rounding the corner. I think we use the analogy for the local restaurant industry. Cal Poly commencement is kind of like our Black Friday. And so we opened Luna Red with basically a freshman football team, and we went to the Super Bowl within a week. So we learned a lot in that first week. And I would say, you know, especially during that first week that you're open, things change on a daily basis. The rules as they were in the morning might be very different than they are in that evening shift or the next shift the next day. So create some sort of centralized communication area, whether it's a messaging system that goes out via email, or it's a message board, or it's something that everybody comes in when they first come to work and they learn about the updates. This is what's changed since you were last here, maybe, so that everyone stays on board, because with as broad as, you know, we've got 25 people on our front of house staff and it's continuing to grow, it's very easy for someone to not receive essential communication. So it's important to have those systems in place too. And Jim, I think that's it from me, unless there's any questions.
Well, I think you hit on two really key topics, and I think everybody should take those, and we have ours with our Lori, is that complacency piece. It's very easy to go, oh, I'm fine, I don't need to check my temperature today, oh, I'm fine. But having maybe even someone dedicated to making sure you're sticking to it and who those folks are, I think that's a great point that you left there. And as you're adding new people into the system, how are you making sure essential communication's getting to them? So I think those are really fabulous notes for everybody in every sector, no matter where you are, because that will be the thing that is the problem, right? The complacency where you're like, oh, we're fine. Yeah.
Sanitized an hour ago.
Right. Not many people have done it. So I've been here, so I'll wait another hour. And then that's where you start running into issues. So we're so thankful that the help you gave us to start us. It's great to hear, like you said, going from the freshman football team to the Super Bowl. I saw the lines at Luna Red and was blown away. Congratulations on all that. So I do want to thank everyone. We don't have any further questions. So I just want to thank everyone for joining us today. You know, a special thank you to our friends, obviously Lori, Ryan, and Natasha, Greg, and Samantha for taking time out of your very busy schedules to join us today. We hope this important conversation helps shed some light on how to think about the reopening. And yes, for those of you still with us, it's true, the governor has given us the mask order for the whole state. And so that looks like, hopefully that's one more piece we can take off of our business back to try and create so that there's a uniform message out there rather than each individual business having to do that. Though we know, as Samantha talked about, in receiving complaints, you're going to get those, but hopefully with a bigger conversation, they can be mad at the governor and not at you, and you can continue to serve them. A recording of this webinar will be available immediately on our Facebook page and our website and other social media channels soon. Additionally, we'll be sending a recap email to registrants with the Q&A text and a copy of the recording. Want to let you know, this will be our last weekly free webinar. We do anticipate continuing these webinars, but on a more monthly basis or more frequently as our situation potentially changes. If you'd like to be notified when we launch these webinars, please reach out to us so to be added to our email list, where we'll also send out important updates and information as it becomes available. I want to thank you, all of our panelists again. I want to thank you for being with us for all the way through March and all the weeks that we've spent here. We hope you stay healthy and well, and look forward to seeing you on another webinar. Have a great day.